Okay, so good morning to everyone. Ang topic natin for today is about the solid shank rivet installation. But first, we have recap muna for the past few lessons na we already determined that yung part number natin is may proper breakdown, and regardless of MS-20 or yung military standard, Air Force Navy, or yung National Aerospace Standards natin, yung mga succeeding codes or numbers would represent your rivet head, such as yung inyong 470 and 426 respectively for your universal head rivet and your countersunk head rivet. Yung ating material specification or yung material natin, rivet material, is yung ating AD, double D, A, and so on. And then you have your diameter in 1/32 increment. Yun yung first number natin. First number to the last. And yung last number natin sa part number would be your length in 1/16 increment. And then we already determined na bago tayo nag-install ng rivet, we have to determine the proper length to be installed on that particular plate. So malalaman lang natin yon once we already determine yung ating grip length of your sheet metal plate. Now, let's proceed sa ating solid shank rivet installation. So installation natin dito is intended only for your solid shank rivet. So as we all know, rivet gun drives most rivets used in aircraft construction. So these tools look and operate in a similar fashion to a reciprocating air hammer or yung air jack natin na ginagamit sa civil engineering or construction. But the number of strokes and force of the impact are considerably different. So in our case, at least 2 to 3 taps para ma-determine or ma-lock out yung ating backtail. As such, only guns designed for riveting should be used on aircraft structures. Again, the one or the rivet gun that we're using is either under 3X or 4X rivet gun. Etong 3X and 4X, 2X, 5X is dito na determine kung gaano kalakas yung magiging impact ng rivet ninyo or gaano kalakas yung pagbarel ng rivet ninyo. When a rivet is driven, the actual compression of the rivet is not performed by the action of the rivet gun. So instead, the rivet is backed up by the metal bar that reciprocates in response to the beats of the rivet gun. So doon yung sinasabi natin na pinupulsuhan nyo dapat yung pagbarel sa rivet. Pulso. Kailangan ma-determine nyo kung gaano kalakas yung pulso nyo in line doon sa barel na gagamitin. These metal bars are referred to as backing bars because of the method in which the bar bucks or vibrates on the shank of the rivet. So again, rivet gun and your backing bar nasa rivet, yung rivet nyo is between them. Then once na drive nyo siya, mako-compress yung inyong rivet. But take note that we also have a proper selection of backing bar. As we all know na ang ating backing bar is nag-vary in design. So yung nag-vary in design na to, yung tinutukoy natin dito, is based on their weight or pounds. So rivet diameter, kung ano ba yung gagamitin yung rivet, would be either in 3/32, 1/8, 5/32, 3/16, or 1/4. May mga respective weight intended na gagamiting backing bar. And paano natin malalaman kung ang backing bar na to is 4 to 5, 3 to 4.5, 2 to 3, and so on. So, aside doon sa bigat, syempre, Malalaman naman natin yung sa bigat kung mabigat siya or magaan. But doon mismo sa ating backing bar, sa mismong backing bar natin is may naka-embed kung gaano siya kabigat. So regardless of the size again, may mga respective weight siya. And may mga backing bar tayo intended para sa mga inaccessible areas and yung mga accessible area. Kung saan kayo comfortable gamitin yung backing bar, yun yung gagamitin mo. As long as pasok siya doon sa weight na paggagamitan. Kapag nag-sleep ang ating backing bar, there are instances na masira yung sheet metal plate or ang ating backtail is hindi magpapantay. And as we all know again, na ang ating backtail is may appropriate height and width. In terms of height, ang diniscuss natin for the past few meetings would be the 1/2 D or 0.5 diameter. And for the width would be 1 and 1/2 D diameter. Again, hindi porke sinabi nating 0.5 D or 1 and 1/2 D is 0.5 inches diameter. Hindi siya constant na ganon. I-compute nyo pa yan, 0.5 times or multiplied based on the rivet being used. Same goes to your width of your back tail. And as for the rivet installation, ang pinaka-common rule naman natin dito is kapag kung ano yung ginamit mo na rivet, automatically, yun yung gagamitin mong pang butas. So, if 1/8 inch ang rivet, automatically 1/8 inch ang gagamitin mong drill. But in some cases, may mga kahit 1/8 ang ginamit mo na barena, hindi magkakasya si 1/8. So, dito papasok yung paggamit natin ng pin punch. Yung pin punch ninyo is maggagawa yan ng slight larger hole regardless kung same size. Kunwari, 1/8 size na pin punch. Ipinasok mo doon sa 1/8 hole. So, since kasi hindi kasi sa 1/8, so papalakihan mo lang ng konti yon, clag lang ng konti, then insert yung 1/8 na rivet. So, until such time na magkasya na yung rivet na gagamitin ninyo. So, the installation of common rivets consists of drilling holes slightly larger 0.025 millimeters to 0.076 millimeters than the rivet shank in the parts to be joined. Removing burrs from the edges of the holes, inserting the rivet, and driving the rivet. So, important na aalisin nyo yung ating burr. Again, yung mga burr yung nakikita nyo sa likod ng inyong sheet metal plate kapag nagbutas kayo. Yun yung parang himulmol or metal residue out of those hole. Kapag hindi nyo tinanggal yon, hindi magjo-join ng maayos yung inyong rivet or yung mismong plate. A number 40 drill is used for a 2.382 mm rivet. A number 30 drill is used for a 3.97 mm rivet. So again, may mga equivalent yan. Then, kapag hindi ulit nagkasya, you also have to use your pin punch. Note that the first dash number of a rivet, which is yung diameter natin, when added to the first number of the drill size will equal 7. A dash 2 rivet requires number 51 drill. A dash 3 rivet requires a number 40 drill. A dash 4 requires a number 30. So yung dash 4 ulit natin is yung 1/8, number 30 yan. Dash 5 rivet requires number 21 drill. And dash 6 requires a number 11 drill. So this is referred to as the 7 rule and it is coincidental. So it gives the it gives the technician a method to help remember drill sizes, but it applies only to rivet size from -2 to -6. Okay, so the rivet is usually by means of pneumatic hammer and backing bar to back up the rivet. So it's either a one-man team or two-man team sa pag-i-install. And take note na kailangan naka 90-degree ang ating installation process. Again, 90-degree, but before nyo install yung rivet, there are some few considerations na kailangan yung gawin. First is yung ating pressure ng rivet. You also need to consider yung pressure kasi nga yung i-apply yung force or yung impact ng pag-trigger is nakadepende doon sa lakas or yung lakas ng pagpitik ninyo doon sa barrel. Hindi natin masasabi yung pulso mo and yung pulso ng kasama mo is parehas. Magkakaiba yan ng pulso. So, doon papasok yung pagtimpla ng pressure doon sa barrel. Pangalawa, you have to look for the proper rivet set. Yung rivet set natin, again, nag-vary yan. Either 330 second, 1/8, 530 second, 316, 1/4, and so on. Kapag masyadong maliit yung rivet set na ginamit mo doon sa particular rivet, ang tendency is masira yung actual rivet head nyo. Kapag masyadong malaki yung ginamit nyong rivet set, ang mangyayari is yung mismong plate naman ang masisira. Kapag tabingi ang inyong installation or hindi naka 90-degree, then expect that your rivet head will deform. Kapag naman sa backing bar, you also have to hold it firmly. Kailangan firm or equal yung force na dinidistribute mo or equal yung force na paghawak mo against doon sa inyong rivet gun. Kapag kasi hindi equal yan, again, dudulas ang inyong backing bar. It's either dudulas or kapag nasobrahan naman kayo sa pressure, masyado namang liliit or masyadong mayuyupi yung inyong back tail. So with that, meron akong papanood sa inyong video with regards to the installation of rivet.
In this video, I will demonstrate the techniques and discuss the fundamental principles for installing solid rivets. Proper layout and hole preparation are a first critical step in ensuring a quality job. We're going to describe how to select the correct length of a rivet, describe how to select the correct bucking bar for the job. I will demonstrate how to set the rivet gun. Then I'll demonstrate the riveting process. And then we'll discuss the inspection criteria to ensure that we've done our riveting process to an acceptable standard. Rivet length selection. The diameter of the rivet is given in the instructions, so all we have to do is to select the correct length. So I take a rivet and I will insert it. I like to insert it through the sheet that is has a hole that's been properly prepared. The number 21 drill for a 5/32 inch rivet, and it's a clearance hole, so the rivet falls through nice and easily. I'll take a longer rivet. Nice to have a longer rivet so you can handle it easier in your hand. Set it alongside the rivet I've stuck through and look at the back side and see that it is sticking out greater than 1 diameter, but less than 2 diameters. So it's approximately 1 1/2 diameter sticking out the back side. This will ensure that I have enough material to form the proper shop head. Now that I've selected the correct rivet length, I'll need to select the correct bucking bar. Correct bucking bars comes in different weights and different shapes. You can have light bucking bars that are various shapes, and sizes. You want to pick one that's comfortable in your hand and that will fit to the application which you are riveting. For our purposes here, I'm going to select a nice heavy rectangular bar that fits in my hand and that I can easily control onto the coupon area where I'm working. Setting the rivet gun is done by taking rivet guns come in light and heavy hitting styles. We'll take ours is a 3X gun. We'll insert the rivet set in it, ensure that I have the correct set. For our purposes, I'm installing a 5/32 MS20470 AD5 diameter rivet. So it's a 5/32 rivet with a universal head style. So I'm going to be using a universal head snap that has a 470 written on it, and it'll either say 4705 for 5/32, or it'll say 470 and have a 5/32, indicating that it is a correct snap to use for a 5/32 rivet. Install the beehive or the safety spring onto the gun. Don't tighten it too tight, just a few turns is all it's needed. We'll stop the rivet set from falling out when you're handling it, and it'll stop it from becoming a projectile if you accidentally hit the trigger while the air is plugged in. That's an important safety step. So we've selected the correct rivet gun, and we've got the bar, and with the correct rivet, we're going to set the gun. To set the gun, have a block of wood, 2x4 or 1x4 or some piece of scrap wood. Don't use the workbench. Plug in the air line to the gun, and I'm going to turn it down. At first, make sure that it's hitting not too hard, and then you're going to pull the trigger fully. And then it's going to, by listening to the sound of the gun and how it's hitting, you'll determine whether it's hitting soft or hard. So I'm going to pull the trigger here, and of course, I've got my hearing protection in, and I'm wearing safety glasses. So hitting very lightly, so I'm going to have to turn it out a fair bit. There, it seems like it's hitting a little bit too heavy, so I'm going to turn it back in a couple notches.
Okay, so yung nakikita niyong ginagawa niya is yun nga, tinitimpla niya yung impact or yung lakas na binubuga ni rivet gun via pressure regulator. So kung ano man yung lakas na kakayanin niya, or kung ano man yung lakas or impact na pwede or suitable sa kanya, yun yung isa-set niya. Again, yung pressure regulator is depende doon sa mismong gagamit.
Couple more notches. So it's just by hearing that you determine the hitting strength of the rivet gun as you're setting it. Looking down at their block of wood, I see that I am making a fairly good impression into the wood, meaning it's hitting hard enough, but the wood's not splitting so that I'm not hitting it too hard. So that's how you set the gun. It's strictly a trial and error thing by ear. Looking at the rivet set, I want to make sure that it is free of all foreign material inside there. There's no masking tape or wood fibers that are in there, and that it's not damaged by other file damage or other marks on the rivet set, that I've got a good serviceable rivet set. I place the rivet into the hole. I'll going to be putting the rivet gun onto the manufactured head side here. And positioning my body, I like to have my knees slightly bent, my body nice and square to the work area where I'm working. I just like to support, if I can, the rivet gun using my free hand onto the aircraft. And I like to keep my wrist nice and straight, and my arm into my body for control. For demonstration purposes, I've left the protective plastic on the sheets so that you don't get the glare on the video from the lights. But normally, the protective sheets, protective plastic would have to be removed from the sheets, obviously in between, as well as on both sides. Rivet is inserted. The person on this side here, who's the riveter, has got the gun perpendicular and is ready. and the bucker on the other side would hold the bucking bar perpendicular to the work surface and onto the rivet head and about the center of the bucking bar. If there's only one person doing the riveting, in this case, like I'm doing here, I just go ahead when I feel comfortable, I pull the trigger. If there was two people, the person on the rivet gun would ask the other person, say, ready, and the other person, the bucker on the bucking bar, would say, go, and the riveter would pull the trigger for 1 to 3 seconds to begin the riveting process. So we're going to go ahead and do the riveting process. I'm just going to check that I'm perpendicular, that my bar is onto the rivet and nice and perpendicular, and then I'm using my fingers onto the coupon or onto the aircraft structure to support the bar so it doesn't go sliding away. Ready? Go. Stop. Remove the bucking bar from this side here. The riveter could keep the rivet gun onto the manufactured head, and you take a look at the other side and you see, is it enough or does it need more? It's always a good idea to stop a little bit earlier than it is to over rivet right off the bat. In this case here, I can see I need a little bit more, so give it another short burst, and that's the riveting process. Now, the inspection criteria is basically in 3 categories. I inspect the manufactured head for damage. I inspect the shop head, the one that I've just formed, for damage. And I inspect the sheet for damage. The manufactured head can get damaged if I am not pushing hard enough on the rivet gun. And how I make sure that I'm pushing hard enough on the rivet gun is that as I'm before starting the riveting process, I am pushing the sheet so it's bending slightly in this direction here with, say, 2 pounds of force, and the person, the bucker on this side here, is pushing back with 1.5 pounds of force. Or if I'm pushing with 4 pounds of force on this side, they're pushing back with 3.5 pounds of force on the other side. So there's just a slight bit of more force on this side, and it is evident by a little bit of a distortion, the sheet bending in the direction of the bucking bar. By not having enough pressure on the manufactured head, the rivet snap can start to jump on the head and damage the head. If the rivet set is the wrong size, if it's undersized, it'll damage the head. If the rivet set is oversized, it'll damage the sheet by leaving a mark. If my rivet gun set is the correct size, but I'm not holding it perpendicular, I'm holding it off to one side, it'll damage the sheet. The shop head can get damaged by the bucking bar sliding off part way, causing a mark on the shop head. The shop head could be undersized, meaning it hasn't achieved full diameter. And remember, the diameter of the shop head needs to be 1.5 times the diameter of the rivet. So for a 5/32 inch rivet, I can check the diameter by using another rivet, sticking it beside, seeing that it's greater than 1 diameters, but less than 2. Or I can use a ruler, and measure the diameter across the rivet for a 5/32 rivet. That'd be 1 1/2 diameters of 5/32 is 15/64. So I can measure that. The height of the rivet is supposed to be 1/2 diameters. So for a 5/32 inch rivet, it'd be half of 5/32 is 5/64, so it'd be 5/64 inch high. So I can measure the height and the diameter of the rivet to ensure and achieve that acceptable standard. The sheet damage can also occur when the bucking bar comes off the shop head here and the riveting gun is still going. That will cause sheet distortion or bucking bar marks on the back side of the sheet. Over riveting too much can cause sheet distortion. Because the rivet is swelling out too much, it causes the sheet to start distorting. So we have manufactured head damage caused by various things. You have shop head damage caused by the various things. And you have sheet damage caused by various things that I've just described to you. So here we have installed an acceptable 5/32 inch diameter rivet into a coupon, and that's all there is to installing solid rivets.
Okay, so bali yun yung ating proper installation of a rivet. Regardless kung ang gagamitin is yung ating universal head or yung ating countersunk head. Although, meron pa tayong ina-undergo na process kay countersunk before ka mag-rivet. Okay, so before that, yung mga dimensions of installed aircraft rivets natin again, ito yung mga considerations natin or yung mga factors na kailangan nating tandaan if tama ba yung na-install nating rivet. Okay, so when rivets are installed in a standard repair, so it is necessary that certain minimum dimensions be observed. So there should be have a desired dimension for the bucketed back rivet heads and length of the rivet. So at least 1 1/2 D yung naka-protrude or yung nakalabas away from the sheet. Ito yung pinaka-raw rivet niyo. Then, once denied siya, so at least you have 0.65 diameter for the height of your rivet and 1 1/2 D for the width. So, bakit tayo nag-tackle last time na 0.5 ang diameter? So, yun yung pinaka-minimum natin. Ayun yung pinaka-accepted minimum standard when it comes to the height of your back tail. Ang pinaka-standard naman natin or yung pinaka-constant is 0.65 D. And yung ating width is around 1.5 D. So para ma-determine natin kung tama ba yung ini-install is susukatin natin yung rivet. Ayan, with experience, a visual inspection will tell the technician if the rivet has been upset properly. So for starters, yung ginagawa kasi is sinusukat siya via rivet din. Sinusukat niya siya kung tama ba yung sukat ni rivet. Katulad nung example kanina. Ito. I-ano natin ulit. Pakita natin tong basic rivet. Ayan. Kung nakikita niyo yung example, if hindi pa sanay or hindi niyo pa alam yung itsura, halimbawa kung kay 5/32, kung kay 1/8, kung kay 5/16, or kay 1/4, yung height of your backtail, ganito rin yung similar na gagawin ninyo. Ito yung raw rivet ninyo. Assume natin na ito yung magiging backtail ninyo. Kailangan compressed yan and at least ma-obtain niya yung kalahati ng actual diameter ng rivet or at least 0.5 or 0.65. Ayun, yung ganun yung magiging itsura kapag susukatin mo. Or kahit hindi mo na siya sukatin, kung alam mo na talaga yung itsura through experience. And again, before tayo mag-proceed doon sa countersinking process natin, meron tayong mga few considerations na kailangan malaman upon installation. You have the countersink process. So to install countersunk rivets or countersink rivets or flash head rivets, so it is necessary to provide a conical depression in the surface of the skin so that the head of the rivet is flushed with the surface. So pinaka-primary objective is i-shave yung pinaka-top plate nyo so that yung inyong flash, yung pinaka-head ng flash head nyo or yung countersunk nyo is pumasok or mas smoothen yung surface ng inyong sheet metal plate. So, yun yung countersinking process. Pero meron din tayong tinatawag na dimpling process na hindi kinakailangan ng countersunk. So, this depression is made by means of a countersunk when the sink is sufficiently thick and by dimpling when the skin is thin. So, yun. Kapag magka-countersunk ka, kapag ang gauge ng plate mo is makapal and magdidimpling ka kapag ang inyong plate is manipis. So, generally speaking, sheet metal should not be machine countersunk entirely through the sheet. For sheet metal of 1.02 to 1.28 millimeters thickness, it is common practice to countersink not more than 0.66 of the thickness of the sheet. For repairs of an airplane or aircraft, the specification for use of machine countersinking may usually be determined from the rivets installed by the manufacturer, which can be found on your structural repair manual. Yung mga proper countersinking process, kung ano bang kailangan mong gawin, ano ba yung kapal ng plate na gagamitin mo, and as well as yung rivet na gagamitin ninyo. And a countersink used in drill press or drill motor should ensure that the countersunk portion of the hole will be properly centered. Ito yung magiging itsura ng inyong countersunk or yung micro stopper na tinatawag. Marami siyang terms kasi. Micro stopper, micro shaver, countersunk, and so on. So again, itong shank is umiikot yan and it will be installed sa inyong drill gun. Then, cutter, as the name implies, siya yung mag-shave nung inyong plate. Pilot, siya yung mag-serve as a reference point or siya yung papasok mismo doon sa butas ng inyong plate. Parang kumbaga siya yung susuporta doon kay cutter para maikot niya ng maayos or ma-shave niya ng maayos yung inyong plate. Then you have the stop or yung cage na tinatawag. Ito is adjustable yan. Adjustable cage yan, suitable for the size of the countersunk rivet. So, ina-adjust nyo yan, depende sa lalim or sa babaw ng rivet. Regarding kung 3/32, 1/8, 3/16, 1/4, 5/32, and so on. So, ito, ina-adjust nyo yan based on the size of your rivet. So, with that, ito ulit yung video for the countersunk process.
Hello again. Welcome to M Level 3 podcast on microdial countersink. The microdial countersink has several advantages over the standard multi-flute cutter.
Ito yung nakikita nyo kaninang cutter. Then, may mga, at least cutter siya, cutter itself, but may pinaka-majority na ginagamit natin is yung may pilot to support yung ating plate.
The microdial, also called the microstop, features a rotating extensible shaft in a fixed body. The shaft allows for installation of different cutters and rotates on a set of bearings in the housing. Each cutter has the same 1/4 28 thread form and offers nose pilot pins sized the same as our solid rivet diameters. The microdial body is extendable, which determines the depth of the countersink. Each castellation on the housing equals a value of 1/1000th of an inch depth. To change cutters, Break torque using a pin punch and rotate to remove. If the body length is shortened, the cutter penetrates deeper. If the microdial body is lengthened, the cutter depth becomes more shallow.
Okay, yung one trick para hindi tayo makasira ng plate is to test muna yung pinakamababaw na surface para dun sa microstop. Okay, for eventually, a-adjust lang kayo na mag-a-adjust until such time na ma-reach nyo yung tama or yung specified na itsura ng countersunk to your actual plate. Again, ito yung makikita nyo. Dapat ganito yung magiging itsura ng countersinking process nyo. But not to the point na wag nyo pang gigigilan yung pagka-countersink kasi nga there might be a chance na masyadong lumubog yung inyong rivet, which is magiging rejected na yon.
Check the depth of countersinks by dropping a rivet into the hole and inspect for excess.
Ayan, ganyan yung gagawin ninyo prior na i-countersunk yung buong plate if needed. So, kailangan at least i-check nyo muna yung prior, yung pinakaunang butas na ginamit ninyo kung pasok, sakto, yung rivet ninyo.
By dropping a rivet into the hole and inspect for excess head protrusion. A properly countersunk rivet should show a small silver ring around the head of the rivet. You may need to peel back the plastic in order to inspect the depth properly.
So, ganito yung magiging itsura ng rivet ninyo, yung installed rivet ninyo if sumobra yung ating counter shaving o yung pagma-micro shaving natin. Again, ang pinaka-main objective kasi natin dito is to install yung countersunk na kapantay yung ating plate so that yung aerodynamic performance of the aircraft will not be compromised. Since we all know that yung ating flash head is used on high-speed aircraft. So yung kanina, yung sinasabi natin na kailangan pantay. And then ito naman, for this instance naman, since yung layo compared kanina is hindi naman ganun ka-extent, so itong type of installation is serviceable. Accepted yan. Since meron pa tayong furnishing na gagawin sa mismong plate. Lastly, ito yung mga magiging common encounters when performing microshaving. So, yung knife edge, yung skin, tooth-thin. So, it's either tooth-thin yung ginamit na plate. Pangalawa, if during microshaving, may mga instances kasi sinishave siya, then most likely may sasabit na burr or metal particles doon sa mismong cutter ninyo or yung mismong nag-shave doon sa plate. So kapag may sumabit doon, ang nagiging consistency ng pag-cut or pag-shave doon sa mismong actual plate is magiging ganyan ang itsura. Magiging pudpud. Third, yung sinasabi natin, pudpud na yung inyong micro stopper or yung mismong cutter niya. That means na kailangan nyo ng palitan yung inyong cutter doon sa micro stop ninyo.
Cosmetic damage done.
So dito naman, nangyayari yung hindi naman siya actual damage but ito yung residue kapag masyado kang nag-apply ng force doon sa mismong plate. Kasi yan is the result of applying too much force ng cage. Ito kasi yung cage, ito yung tinatawag nating stop doon sa part. Cage, na kapag masyado madiniinan, ayan yung nangyayari. Although hindi naman siya talaga ganon nakakapag-damage ng inyong sheet metal plate.
By the microdial shoe is generally not a reason for rejection.
Well, thanks for watching mlevel3.com on podcast, on microdial, microstop, counter.
So, yun yung ating rivet countersinking process. So, once na ma-obtain na natin yung sufficient number of countersunks within the plate, and then when pwede na tayo ulit mag-proceed ulit doon sa installation of the rivet. Similar process kanina sa riveting fundamentals. But, ang gagamitin natin ngayon doon is yung ating flash head na rivet set. Ayan. So again, ito yung nakita ninyo. Yung sa stop, yung pinakadulo ni stop, yan yung nagkukos ng inyong cosmetic damage or yung damage, yung napaka-minimal damage within your plate. And as for your rivet evaluation, andito yung ating mga itsura ng correct and incorrect rivets. So for the good installation of flash head 426, kailangan ang pagka-countersunk ninyo is hindi siya sagad within the plate. Or at least yan, naka 50% of the plate is microshave. And for the universal head, similar, but you have also consider yung ating 0.65D or yung 0.5D for the height of your backtail and yung 1 1/2 D for the correct backtail nyo, backtail width. Kapag naman nasobrahan ka ng countersinking, ito yung magiging itsura kapag sinobrahan mo within the plate is lalagpas yung countersunk nyo. Holes out of line is cost of hindi pantay ang pagkakabarena nyo or pagkakabutas nyo sa dalawang plate or hindi niya ginamitan or hindi gumamit ng Cleco fastener. So nagre-result na may allowance dito sa kabila. So ang mangyayari dito kay mismong rivet is magiging wobbly. Mauga siya o woggle siya. Chop head, hindi masyadong na-drive or masyadong mahaba yung ating backtail. Clinch, shop head. So kapag napakalakas ng pressure or impact ng ating rivet gun, and then yung ating backtail, ang ating backing bar is hindi masyado nakapag-apply ng force. Kung isang kamay mo hindi nakapag-apply ng force or yung kasama mo hindi nakapag-apply ng enough force para makontra yung lakas ni rivet gun at dumulas, ito yung magiging itsura ng backtail ninyo. Flattened shaft head is kapag nasobrahan or masyadong bitin yung rivet length na ginamit mo to the point na hindi na siya pasok doon sa 0.5 or 0.65D na actual measure natin. Cock shaft head. So ito, nangyayari din yan kapag malakas ang impact, dumulas. So makikita nyo, masyadong madiin dito sa lower part. Napadiin yung pag-drive dito, dumulas na to the point na dito hindi na siya nakapag-apply ng force. Skin bulge, burr between sheets, and swelling between sheets are almost the same kapag may mga residue within your sheet metal plate. Skin bulge, nasobrahan ka sa impact to the point na lumubog. Ito yung pinaka-primary plate mo. Then, nasobrahan ka sa impact. So, ito is sumakto, pero dito dumating is nagkaroon na ng damage. Hindi na pantay yung plate ninyo. Burr between sheets. Again, hindi ka naglinis ng burr between two plates. Resulting in may awang sa gitna nila. Same goes to your swelling between sheets. Ayan. May burr sa loob, then malakas ang impact. Open head. Yung open head na damage ninyo, kapag nag-rivet kayo and hindi nyo tinignan or pagkakadrive, medyo slightly na impact ninyo na hindi na nagpantay ang ulo. Although magiging tama yung backtail niyo, ang nangyari is ito, head naman yung nag-suffer. Tumabingi yung pagkaka-barrel. You have the burr underhead. So ito nangyayari to kapag si technician or personnel nag-decide, okay, since para smooth yung surface na pagbubutasan or para walang burr sa gitna, para di tayo magkaroon ng burr between sheets, ang gagawin ko, ibabalik na rin ko na lang yung sheet. Yung may burr is yung nasa ibabaw. Tapos, hindi pa rin nilinis. So, ang nangyari, ang sumalo ng burr is yung mismo rivet head. Na magkakaroon ulit ng awang sa ibabaw. You have the cut head. Kapag nagre-result yan, pag pumitik ka ng barrel, tapos hindi mo naayos, ayan, magre-result yan sa damage. Same goes to your crack shaft head. Ito yung pinakamalala since ito yung mga nangyayari na pinanggigilan yung pag-barrel sa rivet. Kapag nag-exceed ka ng 2 to 3 taps within your rivet, ang nangyari is mababasag. Yun yung term na ginagamit natin. Nabasag yung rivet head ninyo. Skinned mark by rivet set. Again, ito yung sinasabi natin kanina. Kapag masyadong maliit, madadamage yung rivet head. Magkakaroon yan ng smiley. Kapag naman masyadong malaki ang rivet set na ginamit ninyo, magre-result yan na ang plate nyo naman yung madadamage or yung magkakaroon ng smiley. Ito rin yun, similar kanina. 1 1/2 D selection, diameter. 0.65 or 1/2 D or 1 1/2 D for the correct dimensions. And ito yung mga incorrect. Masyadong maliit. Kailangan dapat yung eksakto lang. And since naka-specify naman yon sa inyong rivet set. Rivet imperfection, rivet driven at slant. Although firm yung pagkaka-install nyo, sabihin na nating firm yung dalawang kamay nyo, pero hindi mo napansin na gumagalaw yung kamay mo or dumudulas yung kamay mo ng bahagya. So, ito yung nagiging result doon. So, rivet correctly, dolly, head at slant. So, pwede. So, rivet flat on one side or dolly head flat. Ito, almost the same. Driven correctly, pero nag-i-slant siya ng konti. Rivet flat, nasobrahan, to the point na na-flat ulit, or tumalbog yung ating rivet gun, tsaka backing bar, kaya nagkaroon ng dent or damage yung ating actual rivet. So, rivet of body of rivet too short, closing head shape too much with snap die. Kapag masyado ulit maikli, compromise would be your sheet metal plate. Rivet not pulled tight, clinch between plates, closing flat, closing head to flat. Ayan yung mangyayari. Then rivet tight, plates bulge on account or poor fit. So parang pinilit mo yung rivet. So ito yung mga mangyayari kapag pinilit installation ng rivet. For rivet too much, yan. Kapag sinagad mo ulit, pinilit mo na iabot yung 0.65 and 1 and 1/2 D, mako-compromise naman yung inyong actual plate. So as for the smiley, yung sinasabi nating smiley kanina, ito yon, damage ng rivet set, riveting tool damage, plate. So kapag masyadong maliit or malaki yung rivet set niyo, or kapag di mo na-driven correctly, instance is yan, smiley. May crescent shape damage na makikita doon sa inyong rivet. Head crack, material too hard when formed. So ito yung sinagad or nag-excessive taps within your rivet gun. Ang nga, sinasabi natin, at least tumaas yan ng 5, 6, 7, 8 taps, mababasag na yung inyong rivet. And lastly, as for the removal, kapag na-encounter nyo yung removal, ito yung sinasabi nating process, is that you have to center punch yung rivet head until such time na kumagat or hindi na dumulas yung inyong barena. Then, second, drill through the head. Ang gagamitin nyo rito na size is yung almost same size of the rivet or the next larger size of the rivet, since ang tina-target lang naman natin dito is matanggal yung ulo. Now that we drilled na yung ulo, naging hollow yung ibabaw, ito, sa number 3, naging hollow na to, yung nasa loob ni dash, ina-knock off mo siya with chisel. Chisel and rubber mallet. Ayan. Once na ma-drive mo yan, pag natanggal mo yan, ayan, break the head off using a pin punch or a tipping motion. Yan, pag natanggal na yan, that's the time na pwede mo nang i-push through, itulak yung shank and backtail pababa. So kapag natanggal na yan, pwede ka na ulit mag-proceed to step number 1 when it comes to driving your rivets. And with that, any questions po? When it comes to the installation of solid shank rivets and countersinking of flash head rivet.